Welcome to Ripples. Sorry I'm in the dark. That might be better. Thanks for coming. So I want to thank Brian. Brian keeps sending me very, very interesting things, and it's the stuff he sends me is extremely humbling, because I usually feel after I've listened to it or while I'm listening to it that I'm simply not educated enough to understand it, and I end up having to play it many times. And so the podcast that he sent me yesterday, thank you Brian, was called Musing Mind Podcast, and the interviewer, Ocean I think his name is, interviewed Zach Stein, who's a Canadian basically philosopher. He's a psychologist and a political economist in a way, and I was captivated by the talk. He has these ideas, these really beautiful ideas, which he calls the 13 miracles for, let me quote it properly. Oh dear. Sorry, I had that on the screen and now it's gone. 13 social miracles for a time between worlds. And basically the podcast was about acknowledging where we are now, imagining and trying to position ourselves so that we can imagine living in a different way. And he likened where we are at the moment to being like fish in water, that we can't calculate our own environment, and that if we had some of these social miracles enacted, we would be able to begin to think, or we need to begin to think before we can begin to enact these miracles. Anyway, I encourage you to listen to it if you're at all interested. And Andrew was in the city yesterday, and I sent him a link to the podcast after I had listened to it. And of course, Andrew, being the polymath he is, understands economics very deeply, and spent most of his teenage years and college years immersed in Marx. He's just extremely widely read. So I said, please listen to this and then teach me what it's saying. So, but one of the main point of this podcast was that we can't keep going the way that we're going. And how can we, do you agree, Brian? That's the main thing is that we can't continue the way that we're going. I'll give you an example of one of these 13 social miracles. One was he was calling a jubilee, which sounds to me like an amnesty for college debt, to free the hundreds of thousands of people who are completely mired under this debt. Now, I was blessed to have grown up in Australia where all education was free. So I went to the equivalent of an Ivy League school, the University of Melbourne, for bachelor's and master's degrees. And it cost me $234 a year. That was the fee that you pay to be able to go for a swim or to the gymnasium, which you couldn't get out of. You had to pay that, even though I wasn't going to go to the gymnasium. But and that was it for 6 years. So. And I have a tremendous awareness of how I got off on a completely different foot because I wasn't mired under this. And so I think this is a beautiful idea, these 13 social miracles. I don't know if you're able to, Brian, to put the link to that in the chat. I couldn't get a link up on my keyboard. And so the ripple that I'd like to put out into the pond is maybe the very first tendril, I guess, of beginning to start some of these miracles happening. And I think the college debt one is extremely important. Another miracle that he talked about is for people to give as much as they feel that they can give, and maybe even a bit more. And I don't think that needs to be monetary, but to give of themselves more than they think that they can, which would be an extraordinary miracle too. And I think the channel that best spells out these ideals is Yang Wei Mai, because the channel Yang Wei Mai propels you into a future that you cannot perceive. It bypasses planning. It bypasses having to understand the nuts and bolts and to be able to conceive of ideas that then need to be carried out. It's like Yang Wei Ma is like a fast track into the future, into a new chapter of awareness and a new chapter of energetic presence. So I thought to go with that podcast, that's just to repeat, that's Zach Stein speaking to Ocean, Oshan, and I just can't find his name right now, but the podcast is called Musing Mind. And I really do think that we can play a key role in this. He also says that, thank you, Jan. He also says that the way in which you make a living has an enormous impact on how you think about the world and how you see everything. And I thought that was fascinating. And, you know, I was feeling just so blessed that we're in this profession which has the capacity to create change without having to get, you know, master's degrees in economics and politics and history and technology. No, we don't have to do that. We can facilitate these changes energetically. Anyway, I'm talking way too much, but I was very excited to hear it, and Andrew was almost verklempt. He said, "Oh, I can't believe that people are actually thinking this way already. That we haven't had to, you know, slam into a wall before these conversations have started. Maybe we already have, but not here in Ripples." Thanks so much for being here. Thank you again, Brian. And let's get to work. The points would be bladder 63 and do 16, which is the Li Zhen trajectory of Yang Wei Mai. So we're using a different one, a trajectory that's different to the one that terminates at gallbladder 13. Do 16, the wind gate, to mark change in the Yuan level in the Jing. Bladder 63, do 16. Thank you, everyone. Let's get to work. Thanks for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.